morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, making time for yourself today. And it is my pleasure to be here as well. So thank you for that. So before we get into the top part of the service, it's always a gentle reminder for myself that what we share and discuss is not just for you, it is for me as well. So we will continue to go on moving forward together as we discuss. So our belief system or religion of spiritualism is constructed of three streams of thought. The scientific aspect of it, which is measured through scientific subjects from our demonstration of mediumship, continuity of life, physical phenomena, table tipping, trumpet, seances, etc. And then there's a big significant portion is into the healing aspect of that. And that continues to be performed, experienced, exercised, and practiced. And there is the third part, which is an integral part, is all the nature and spiritual laws that govern life. Right? There are many of hundreds of things that we can talk about, but today we'll be talking about a little bit of economics. And the question is, has anybody pursued economics more than what was being offered in the high school or your earlier school days? It's fantastic. I didn't do it either, but that's quite okay. But since the laws of nature, which are universal, the law of economics fall under one branch of this law, and we'll talk about this one simple thing. And I feel the theme of our today's conversation is, are we living with our passion? Are we in the path, in the flow of life with our own passion? And that one economic law is the law of diminishing marginal utility. One person nodding the head. So, the law goes this way. You have a piece of candy or anything that you can imagine that you like. Then you have the first piece, it's so enjoyable. The second one is still enjoyable. The third one is still enjoyable. The 15th, the 16th. If you keep going, it's usually nothing, but it's just you're doing what you're doing. So this law of diminishing marginal utility says if you're in pursuit of a certain aspect of your life, the way to measure it is it continually to be as excited as the first 2-3 times as you continue to practice or approach it day after day, time after time. And if you feel you've kind of sort of walked away from your passion, I feel that has been my reminder in the last few weeks to assess, am I flowing in my life within my passion? So if it is something that I have to address, like you would address for yourself, this could be a simple example. Where I started, where I am, what is the difference between then and now? And then that's that. But this law doesn't end there, because there is another wonderful privilege to say. We have Reverend Merrill Naughtry that compiled and wrote this book called River of Life. And it has lots of natural laws and spiritual laws that you can reference based on your needs. But in this, there's also a law of matter and energy. Because everything is vibration, everything is operating within the laws of vibration, so even our passions are encompassed within that aspect. Sometimes we are not in the right frame of mind to be in direct alignment with our passions, what we really wanted to create, what we really wanted to do. And some of us are just not understanding that we are governed by nature and vibration. How we resonate within ourselves, we draw in the experiences of similar kind. Not always making us a part of it, but also perhaps becoming small to big to mediocre of lessons of different shapes and sizes. So perhaps the organism within each of us, our spirit and soul, slightly different, slightly the same, is asking for that expansion. Right? So these laws of nature are always constantly replenishing us with something new. So even what I knew when I started this journey as a spiritualist novice, I today myself consider to be a spiritualist novice, but maybe with just a little tiny bit of brightness there, but I'm still a novice. But the part is my definitions, my understanding over years of time are slightly different, they're slightly more to today's time. But the soul is continuing to expand. That passion is still as fresh as day one. So my taste for being with spirit or having a dialogue about spiritual laws or sitting in a seance or watching another medium or demonstrator to see what they are working with or what they're bringing along with them gives me this excitement. And that is my way of saying my passion is always replenished. Now, of course, many of us here, not everybody's passion is supposed to be like mine. And our passions are uniquely different, like all our DNAs and thumbprints, fingerprints are. So our passion runs in the different field. We can say somebody loves music, but still within that music, they have different vibrational spaces that they feel aligned with, right? So the understanding of this energy and matter is because our thoughts are vibrational, so they are constantly creating experiences. They're constantly creating possibilities and opportunities. And the moment when this law of diminishing marginal utility comes to our faces saying, am I getting bored or where am I if I'm feeling lost? That would be one small reminder to say, this is not it. There's more out there than what I can perceive. And just saying that aspect of, there's more. And that alone has the ability to shift where the mind is or where the experience is sitting in that very moment. So if you're ever feeling caught up in a corner that things are not flowing your way, a quick sense of inventory would be, where am I in the flow of things? And if I'm really hitting a wall or if I'm not having a breakthrough, maybe nudge yourself and saying, I'm going to sit back and just enjoy the view because there's more to experience. This is not it. And it will shift. It will open an opportunity and door to move into different spaces. But that little word is just an exciting space for that. There's another law that is mentioned in here which has been really intriguing me for the last, I want to say, few days, and that is called the law of alchemy. And it's right here in this book. It will give you a little description and something to think about. But law of alchemy is constant creation. Because alchemy means the combination of one, two, or more things to make something happen. And the law of alchemy is also, once again, it's a vibrational input-output. So when the vibrations come in alignment or they sync with each other, they create an experience. Today the stars were perfectly aligned, the clocks were perfectly aligned. I was able to pick up Reverend Marilyn Autry to bring her over here. But it did have a lot of alignment for the past few days to keep checks and balances. Are you still okay with this? So part of what I'm saying is when we are creating life through this alchemical state of consciousness, that alignment is a momentary thing. And I've spoken about this a few times to some people that are here in the audience. When we are experiencing certain things, it is in the moment. What is happening here is in the moment. Once we finish this hour of service, then it becomes something in the past. And even as soon as I say goodbye, that becomes something in the past. Everything through the alchemical processes, everything happens in the moment. So those that are pursuing healing or your spiritual progression, you would understand when you do work with spirit or mediumship or psychic work even, everything is in that moment of observation. You cannot premeditate on a certain conversation. If you're doing that, perhaps the idea is, am I missing a point? Being present in that moment of experience creates such a magical place to say, I have to be present right here, right now. I have to disconnect from the before and the after part of the process. Is there, but that sanction of law of alchemy is when the energies are colliding, the vibrations are colliding, things are happening. Here I am speaking through inspiration on the subject, but you are sitting in your own dialogue in your mind, wherever it's drifting you left or right. That is a process in its own. So you are understanding that sense of the creation. Now, beyond the law of alchemy, I have to also bring in the aspect of there's always a cause and effect, because that alchemical process, whatever it induces here, has the ability to create a reaction which is, once again, can be unique to your own setup and experience. Now, in the big scheme of things, this is all just wonderful words in some ways to just listen and understand, but I am 100% sure and confident we are all experiencing that, just unknowingly we are in that process. But my thought for today, for everyone, including myself, is how to assess if I'm in the passion, if I'm in the flow of life. When something is not working, am I there or am I not? And that ties into the law of diminishing utility, marginal return, to say, if it's not working out, perhaps it could be a good idea to move past it, or set it aside for a little while to see what goes on there. And then we all become observers to see, let's just wait and watch how things are going to go. And we take our energy and invest it in a whole different time-space continuum. So I'm pretty sure we all have, in our own ways, come upon places when things were just not working out, or they were not showing the returns we were expecting them to have. And no matter what our age is, no matter what our circumstances is, we have somewhere come upon those doors that were meant to be released and shut off, and we had to look for the bright new light in one pathway to continue to move on into that part. Now, all this wonderful arrangement of life, it is not linear. On the spirit timeline, time is really not existent. It just is. There is a lot of isness present in the afterlife. So talking from the spiritual side of these laws, they are still operational there, but they don't have any linear movement. They're not horizontal, vertical. They just happen. And that happiness is within the isness of whenever it is happening, then it is happening. And that's the part of that. So how many of us want to hear from our loved ones, but we are saying, well, they don't talk to me anymore, or they don't show up there. And I'm sure we all go through that spaces of looking for that communication, or the little nudge, or the little sign in that space. But perhaps the thought is, since I'm an instrument of receiving that communication, am I out of tune? We have musicians, and you would know when you're out of tune. The idea would be to tune yourself back into space to be more enjoyable. So, I have one more thing to say, because this is profound in many ways. The spirit people do have options. They have choices just like we do. So they have the choice to be with us as long as they are needed, as long as they feel we need them for healing, closures, etc. But should they understand this part of journey is complete between their humans and themselves, they do have the ability to move on to different things. So I cannot be upset with my loved ones if they don't show up when I'm demanding them. And there's another thing we'll talk about here in a second. When I'm expecting them, they will not show up, but then part of my job is to sit back and say, oh, maybe they have found a better purpose on the spirit side of life. Or they also have an option in somewhere in the cycle of soul to return to wherever they're wanting to return next. So that possibility is also abundantly available to the spirit in some form. But the demanding part is also, I do notice, I speak from my own shoes, sometimes that don't work for me. I have to be just express myself and just leave it alone. Because they will bring me what I need to understand. Once again, time doesn't exist, so it may not happen in that moment of asking. It may come around in a different time space. There have been, in my last few years of my experience, there have been several very explicit conversations in a session where their loved one has said, this is the last time we're communicating with them. Can you imagine how it would feel if somebody on your own loved ones comes back and say, but their part is, they are doing fine, they've got a grip on life, we have found other things to do. And this father was very clear in his communication to their loved one at that time to say, I'm moving on, I may not be available next time. So if it was not about my limitations, I wouldn't be surprised or even have any problem saying that he may come through somebody else, but my inquiry would be, does he come in the same intensity as he ever did before? And that's another part of the thing. They have a purpose. When their purpose is fulfilled, their own healing, their own journeys of life is completing through their reviews of life on the other side. They do get an understanding. Do I make peace, or do I accept where I am, and then we carry on to the bigger plane of life? So this movement is just a little song and dance that goes on. And the part of our understanding is, since we are in the human construct, the little desire of holding on to things or hoarding our loved ones to ourselves, or the communication that is. But once again, this life is about expansion and fulfillment and being in knowing there's always the next thing. And what that next thing is, sometimes it is there as an awareness, but sometimes we have to just walk through that space. So, yesterday and the day before, I had this stream of thought that was running, and I haven't memorized my verses, but I will paraphrase. So the alchemy, I feel, has stirred this thought, and as I was sitting in my little quiet, usually the television is off, everything is just dead silent, I just sit there, I'm just staring at light sometimes. And as these thoughts came around, and I know somebody's working here with me on alchemy to understand that part. So, in the cosmic consciousness, everything is vibration. Even us, even our inanimate objects are vibration. So in the cosmic consciousness, we are all trying to integrate in a form. So we become recognizable, the objects are identifiable, the animals, the bird, the leaf, the dirt, and things. But in the big cycle of alchemy, the other part of this equation is every form that has a form is disintegrating back into the particle form, or the conscious vibration spaces. So this little interweaving is always at play. And that became more interesting because I'm hearing this from the physicality and the materialistic side of life. When my subtleness says, that's how I get to experience the spirit side of the world, when I'm sitting in conscious commitment of dedicating with a situation or a circumstance, that particulate format, the spirit has the ability to just integrate and present themselves for that experience between me and the client, or me and the circumstance at the time. And once that purpose or the commitment is over, they just go on becoming the cosmic conscious particles is there. But that I also feel is very much integrating with this alchemy. The law of alchemy is when things have to come into our existence, they take a form, and when their purpose is done, we are going on to the different dimensions. And this is another part of this cosmic awareness is we can, as a particle or as the consciousness, we are existing in, once again, the theory of we are existing simultaneously in different dimensions. We don't know, I don't know sometimes where that thought came from. And I have to be open. It's like, if it's a neutral tone, then it's not from my family member or somebody that I'm aware of as a guide or as a communicator, but if that thought did step into my consciousness, and then the song and dance for me becomes my passion that keeps me going. It's like, oh, one more thing to work on. And a part of me keeps me moving in that space. So everything that speaks to you as a passion, what speaks to you at heart, does not have a shelf life. And I have to remind us, to those that are living their life at every given day, still have responsibilities, etc. If you are in that process, yes, please do what is best for you. But if there's a passion that sits in you and you're not able to execute it in this experience, it will be there, because that's what it is supposed to be. That passion does not have the marginal diminishing return, because it will never feel old. That excitement never goes up. So I know we have lots of females versus males, but whoever is the one that enjoys putting up a big spread of food when family is coming, and you are really excited about that display of love through cooking, the passion is still new. no matter what, it's the same food group, same items, everything. But the excitement and the anticipation of somebody likes this, somebody doesn't like spinach, so you better have something else for them, so on and so forth. But the whole alchemy of creation, the energy, the matter and the mass, and somebody leaving with a great sense of like, aha, is there. So that purpose of creation and co-creation through alchemy laws are always operating. So, who likes to cook chili here? A couple people. But yesterday in our community in Casadega, we had a chili cook-off. We termed it as first annual chili cook-off. And there were 6 entries, and they were all great. But we had the option to vote for the winner. And there were 2 winners. So they shared the hat, and they had a little tug of war playfully. But community is also where I feel a lot of this liveliness or the passion can be tuned into. A sense of community is, I feel, to humans is very primordial. We are clumping people, animals, whatever you want to call yourself. But at the same time, we like the sense of community. And I'm bringing that example up because 6 different recipes, 6 different tastes, 6 different spice groups, whatever they put in there, each of them had a very distinct taste. None of them were alike. None of them had the same ingredients. And the part of that is just was a simple reminder for me. I was seeing whoever participated, whoever was there, everybody had a really great time. And everybody had each and every one of those preparations just to the sake of saying what is different here. And there was definitely differences. And the enjoyable part of that community is also was appreciated. Perhaps whatever happened in that consciousness of collective gathering, that it was one thing, and today we are in a collective gathering of a different space, it is creating its own momentum. So, sometimes when we are not aligned with our own passions, perhaps, look for a community where you may find a little spark or a nudge that will take you into that space of something inspirational, something uplifting, and it will move you in a whole different direction. It is only us that gets to choose if we can sit there and just brood or just sulk in our own limiting abilities, but we always have to realize there's something more exciting waiting for us to discover. So that being said, I hope you get excited. If you feel something is not flowing, perhaps say, there's more. Where is it? And then just leave it alone till it shows up in front of you. Because many of times my spiritual experiences are like that too. Here I am trying to demonstrate something or work through something. They have their own agenda, and their agenda is bigger than our agenda. And they will just do what is best for the group, what the commitment or the exercises. So sometimes I have to surrender my own self, like, okay, paying attention, Joy. This is not going to work this way. So I just know in our own lives, if something is not flowing, give it a little break. Put it aside and come back to it when it's ready. Because it will tell you when it's ready for you. That being said, I will say this to you. Quiet spaces do expand our conscious awareness. Meditating a whole different aspect, creature of it, but even if you learn to just sit quietly, turn everything off, let the nature and outside sounds be white noise, just sit silently. That alone sometimes can shift you just enough to pick up what you need to pick up as a guidance, as a nudge, as a communication. And that will just spruce up that moment of your life. That being said, this moment spruced up my journey today with you. So thank you for being here.